The New England Patriots present a very unfavorable matchup for the Chicago Bears on Monday night. So we're going to put together a game plan for what Matt Eberflus can do to try and counteract some of the things Bill Belichick is going to throw at him.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lorin Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Bears. You can like Locked On Bears on Facebook. Join the Locked On Bears Facebook group for even more Bears talk. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel to keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making the Locked On Bears podcast your first listen today. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. On the show today, we put together a game plan for what the Chicago Bears need to do to beat the New England Patriots on Monday night and pull off the Week 7 upset. It's going to be a tough matchup for this Bears team, and it's right now, I think, plays right into New England's hands to be a very favorable matchup for them. But we'll look at some of the things the Bears can do to attack this Patriots defense, what we should expect Bill Belichick to throw at Justin Fields, and some ideas for counteracting what that might end up looking like. Then we'll turn our attention to Bailey Zappy and or Mac Jones. Whatever New England decides to do at quarterback this week will largely be some similarities there, but we'll kind of look at where the Bears might be able to take advantage there and what they need to be prepared for on that side of the ball. We'll wrap up looking at some of the key matchups on both sides that are going to go a long way toward determining who wins this game, the matchups the Bears need to win in order to pull off the upset. I'm most concerned about how this Bears offense will fare against the Patriots defense, because this Patriots defense is really good, and they've been playing really well the last couple of weeks in particular, getting a little bit healthier and kind of settling in a little bit more to this kind of unique style that they have. You know, they're a very hybrid 3-4 unit that doesn't even really use, four linebackers, and it's not always three defensive linemen. Like it's that's sort of like the foundation of it, but they won't always have three guys with their hands in the dirt and four guys with their hands up. They won't always be linebackers. They run a lot of like three safety packages, and there is not just going to be some magic formula for the Bears to score 4 or 5 touchdowns in this game. I mean, the Patriots, first of all, you're going to need to take care of the ball against them. They've got 6 forced fumbles and 6 interceptions in 6 games this season. Those edge rushers are really good on the edge. They get a lot of that pass rush from those edges, Dietrich Weiss and Matthew Judon. They have 3 of those 6 forced fumbles and I think 11 sacks between the two of them. And I certainly have some concern about Fields getting strip sacked in the pocket, not because his ball security is terrible necessarily, but just that these edge rushers are really good and have a knack for getting the ball out quickly. I think Fields has generally done a good job of taking care of the football in terms of like the decision making. We've just seen interceptions come mostly on poor decisions or throws that are, batted off, either bounce off a player's helmet or batted at the line of scrimmage or tipped in that way, or an inaccurate throw a couple times against the Houston Texans, but not overly poor decisions. So taking care of the football, I think, is going to be important. This offense can't afford to, lose possessions that way, to give the Patriots extra possessions via turnovers. I think what you're going to see Bill Belichick do to try and neutralize Fields is a couple of things. One, we know this Patriots defense does love to run man coverage, and they're also one of the heavier blitzing teams as well. So I think they're gonna sort of line up their corners and safeties on the Bears receivers and say, hey, make these Bears wide receivers beat them one-on-one. And they're probably gonna have to do it quickly if they're bringing that extra heat, because they're gonna come after Justin Fields, and I really think they're gonna try and disrupt him that way, the way that we saw the Giants do so a couple of weeks ago, and that we've seen blitzes in general have or cause some trouble for this Bears offense. I think they'll also use one of their safeties, who's kind of a hybrid linebacker, Kyle Duggar, I think is going to be their sort of like anti-Fields weapon. They play him a lot at linebacker. They'll put 3 safeties on the field, sometimes 3 safeties and 3 cornerbacks. They'll go, one or it feels like 0 linebackers sometimes on the field. And that gives them a lot more speed on that edge. And I think they're really going to want to take away Fields' legs, keep him in the pocket and keep him under pressure as much as possible, eliminate those big scrambles that he's had, and make the Bears receivers win one-on-one coverage. So to respond to that, of course, the Bears need to have hot routes built into plays. Like, of course, you can leave in extra blockers, but some plays you're just not going to be able to block it up. And you need to have quick passes built in that Fields can go to if the extra pass rush is going to be coming, if the blitzers are coming downhill, right? You don't want your whole offense to be, check downs and screen, quick dump offs behind the line of scrimmage, or else you become what the Green Bay Packers are right now. Like, you do need to have more than that built in, but you need to have options for Fields to get rid of the ball quickly when he needs to. And just, routes that can beat man coverage. You think about crossing routes, things working over the middle of the field where defenders have to trail in coverage, and it can be a little bit hard to carry a guy all the way across the field, to drag a deep crosser, a deep in, maybe some quick outs, things like that stress man coverage. Have guys cross each other, whether it's pick routes right at the line of scrimmage to cross or like mesh patterns over the middle, right? Different things to put man coverage defenders in difficult situations to stay with them. And I think it's a little bit easier said than done. If it was easy to beat man coverage all the time, the Bears would already be doing it. It is going to take, some of these receivers making some individual plays and making some plays after the catch. You're also going to want to run the ball. The Patriots don't go heavy at linebacker. They tend to put a lot of safeties and defensive backs in the box. Their D-line has been good enough that they've been able to stop the run as a result and have the speed to get to the edges. So it's not as simple as just, fewer linebackers means run the ball more. They've been particularly pretty good at, when you try and load up with tight ends, extra tight ends, they've been able to match that physicality pretty well. And they've had less success stopping the run when you spread them out with 4 receiver looks and still hand the ball off up the middle. So I look for the Bears. The Bears should do a little bit more of that, but I have a feeling they're still going to try and go 2-3 tight ends, a fullback in there, ground and pound that way. And I don't know that that's the best way to attack the Patriots on the ground, but if the Bears can have success with it, that's more important than exactly how you go about doing it. I'm much more concerned about the Bears offense against the Patriots defense than I am about the Bears defense against the Pats offense. But the Bailey Zappy experience has been revolutionary so far in New England, and I think that whether he plays or Mac Jones, we'll see health-wise where Mac Jones is. You got to think the Patriots have a lot of confidence in where their quarterback is going, but we'll take a look at what Zappy does well and what he doesn't do well, and how the Bears should respond to that, and a really strong Patriots running game next on Locked On Bears. Here are my three of my favorite things: football, and saving money. So let's talk about saving big money right now with our friends at SimpliSafe and their home security systems. They're offering Locked On Bears listeners 40% off their advanced security system. SimpliSafe was just named the best home security of 2022 by US News. They love it, I love it, you'll love it, because at SimpliSafe, your safety is their top priority. They've got 24/7 professional monitoring, so whenever a threat is detected, SimpliSafe's professionals promptly contact you and dispatch first responders to your home, even if you're away or unable to respond. But they have smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when a threat is real. And there's also hazard sensors that can instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. They have proprietary response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real, so you can get the highest priority first responders dispatch. Don't miss this chance to save big, to protect your home with the best. Get 40% off your order when you visit simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl today. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes. That's simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl today. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. There's no clear and easy path here for the Bears defense to just shut down what the Patriots have done this year. But I think you can be prepared for what the likely Bailey Zappy-led offense is going to do to you, and at least, be closer to a step ahead and be more prepared for what's going to come your way. So Zappy's been very accurate, takes great care of the ball, and has been able to also mix in some big plays downfield. But I think most tendency-wise, like they like to throw shorter and over the middle of the field. I mean, he likes to sort of dissect there and get those matchups against linebackers, safeties, and slot cornerbacks. He'll still throw to the outside sometimes. It's not like that big of a tendency, but that is more of where this offense likes to flow. It's not necessarily that he's getting rid of the ball lightning quick the way, Tom Brady used to in New England and still does in Tampa Bay. Like Zappy does hold on to the ball a little bit longer. I mean, he's definitely more on the Justin Fields side of the spectrum than the Tom Brady side of the spectrum. And so there's this balance they have to play, right? It's like you want to take away the short routes, but you can't just clamp down right away because he's going to have some time to throw and is going to wait for that option to get open over the middle of the field. So it's like, it's not necessarily taking away the first quick option, but it is keeping players in front of you that way and not, you don't want to just like abandon or not worry about deeper shots because they will mix in there, and we'll get into that in a sec. But like, understand where he wants to go with the ball and be prepared, right? Like keep a foot closer, keep an eye on the middle of the field, stay a little closer, stay a little bit more tighter underneath. You don't need to play super off coverage all the time. You don't need to give the receivers all that space before the snap. That doesn't mean press man-to-man coverage on every snap either, right? It's always a little bit of a balance, but understand where he wants to go with the ball most frequently, where he seems to be most comfortable, and be prepared for that. Like that's what it is first and foremost. And then what they do is they will take deep shots, but play action is really mostly where they look for that. Play action is when they want to load up and fire it deep. It seems to be very intentional that way. It's not exclusively that way, but it seems to be very intentional that way, and he's been very good when they do it. It's not like they're not a low play action team. They're the middle of the pack in play action in terms of like how often they're going to go to it. But we've certainly seen the Bears struggle defending it quite often this season. So you have to be prepared that when they show that play fake, turn around and run, because they're a lot of times going to be looking to go deep on that. I think because he does hold on to the ball a little bit on the longer side, some of it has been a result of his pass protection. I think there's a real opportunity to get after him a little bit with the blitz. You have an opportunity there to, that he'll be holding on the ball long enough that your pass rushers can try and get home. And that's really the key thing. Like if you're going to blitz, you gotta commit to it, right? You gotta get home. Not that you're always going to get home on every single blitz, but like you have to be effective and you have to be efficient in your blitzes, because certainly he's not one of these quarterbacks that the blitz is coming and he freaks out and doesn't know where to go with the football, right? He's smart about it and has had some nice completions throwing into the blitz, right? It's not like it's the foolproof plan to just blitz him a bunch and he won't know what to do. You have to get home with those blitzes. But even on the blitzing plays, it's not like it's speeding him up that much. He's not like blitz turn throw, right? It's like it's dropping back, blitz is coming, and he's still able to get rid of it in a similar set of time. It seems like the blitzes he's faced have not been as effective at getting right to him, because they do quite often leave a running back in for pass protection. Stevenson's their top running back. They leave him in as a pass blocker, I think more than other teams tend to with their running backs. And they run a lot of 2 tight end sets and can have extra blockers that way, so they can be more prepared to pick up the blitzes. And then when you're blitzing, of course, you have fewer players back in coverage, so the matchups and the reads tend to be then a little bit easier for Zappy to read. And he's been able to, again, then have some of that success because the blitzes haven't been always getting home and having that same effect of disrupting the quarterback and getting him off of his spot. So there's a combination there, but we saw Alan Williams kind of break out that third down blitz package a bit more against Washington. And, you don't want to just be predictable in that exact way, but if you mix up how you're blitzing and where you're blitzing, and maybe you drop someone else in coverage here and blitz there, right? There are you can scheme up the right blitzes to create either better one-on-one matchups or try and scheme up free pass rushers by overloading one side in a certain way to just leave not enough bodies to pass off blocks to be able to pick up that rusher and get home to Zappy. Even if you're not, quote unquote, if you're not sacking him, but you're getting him under pressure, forcing him to throw the ball away, hitting him after he throws or hitting him as he throws, right? There's more that you don't have to just measure blitz success by sacks, because he's only been sacked a few times in a few games here so far. But if the blitz can be disruptive to the passing game, that's what it needs to be. You can't afford to blitz and have the Patriots properly pick it up, or you're going to be screwed. I mean, Zappy's going to be able to move the ball behind them. Plus, they're going to be able to run the ball really well. I mean, that's part of what's made Zappy's job that much easier. Is DeMondre Stevenson's is really good. Like he's a really talented back that you might not have heard of if you're not a big time fantasy football player. He was a 4th-round pick for them last year, Ramondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma, and he's just been really, really solid for them this season. One of the league leaders in yards per carry. I had noticed when you watch the Patriots, they tend to be a bit more of a right-handed rushing team. Whether the play is designed to go right or whether it's the cutback. Like he tends to cut back off of his right side. And so I think that then is going to put a lot more of the pressure, the onus, the responsibility on Al-Quadin Muhammad at that other defensive end spot, or, when it's Travis Gibson in the rotation there, or even Dominic Robinson, right? We know that Robert Quinn plays pretty much exclusively the right defensive end spot, which is over the left tackle, right? It's reversed. So the left defensive end, which is the right side of the offense, is what tends to be Gibson and Al-Quadin Muhammad. And certainly we've seen Al-Quadin Muhammad struggle in terms of holding the edge in the running game, and Travis Gibson has, I think, by comparison, looked a lot better, but has evaded some of the same criticism that I think he could deserve also. But it's just Muhammad's been more noticeably bad, so we don't get. And Gibson's younger, right? And so there's reasons why, but Gibson hasn't been great either. Is also the point there. Not quite Muhammad bad, but hasn't been as good. So I'm concerned about those guys being able to get swallowed up on that right edge of the offense, and Stevenson being able to break it outside of that and get into some running lanes, and then make Bailey Zappi's job that much easier, certainly make play action appear to be more of a threat for these linebackers to step up on, and all of a sudden, that's how this Patriots offense can really, really get clicking. So the Bears need to be prepared for those right side cutbacks and that general right-handed runningness, and some of these shorter passes from Zappy, even if they are a little bit longer developing, right? You can't be too aggressive in coverage, but you also have to keep in mind where the ball is going to go and when the deep shots are going to be coming off of play action. You can kind of get a sense of how it's setting the stage for where some of the one-on-one matchups need to be. But we'll look at the positional battles that the Bears need to win if they're going to pull off this upset over the New England Patriots on Monday, next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline.net, your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season as well. BetOnline has all of your sports covered. The line for Bears Patriots at BetOnline is Patriots -9. It's been staying there pretty well, so if you think 9 points is too big of a deficit, you can certainly earn some money on the Bears there. The money line straight up, if you want to predict the full-on upset, is Bears +305, but predicting another low-scoring game, over under 40 points at BetOnline. BetOnline is going to have all of your sports wagering information, live in-game betting, up-to-the-minute scores for every sports out there. The team matchups, the news, the in-depth analysis on every single game. So head on over to betonline.net today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. The big matchup that I've got my eye on here for the Bears starts with the receiver that we can trust, right? Darnell Mooney. We talk about him a lot in these game plan podcasts because that's what you can rely on. And we know Bill Belichick is the type to try and take away your strength and make you beat him more so left-handed. And so I'm curious what kind of double teams Mooney might face if they're just going to always keep a safety over on his side of the field as much as possible to not give him those one-on-one man coverage matchups. But if I'm the Bears, I'm playing him at that left receiver spot because that's where Jalen Mills is for the Patriots. And he, to me, looks like the weaker of the links at the cornerback spot. They've got a couple of rookies, especially their 4th-round pick, Jack Jones, has been the highest-graded rookie by Pro Football Focus of any position, at least I think defensively. He's been filling in at cornerback while they've had some injuries to Jonathan Jones, their other starter. Their slot guy, Miles Bryant, is good but not great. But I think Mills has had some of those just like mental errors on the field that if Mooney can hit him with a double move and blow by, right? If Fields can then have the time to get the ball up there, something quick and down the field, right? That's the wide receiver DB matchup one-on-one that the Bears can win if Belichick is keeping Fields in the pocket and maybe blitzing him a little bit more. Like I want Mooney on Mills as much as possible. Put your best receiver on what looks to be their least consistent cornerback. Not that Mills is terrible by any means, but he has his ups and downs for sure. And I think that's an area that the Bears need to win in order to get this offense going. And then in the trenches, we saw Braxton Jones struggle a bit against Washington. We've seen him have ups and downs this season. I'm certainly willing to put up with it, and I think it's part of the growth process for him. So it's not a disaster or anything yet, but he needs to hold up better against Dietrich Weiss. That's going to be the primary edge rusher on that side of the field. Weiss has, I think, 6 sacks, either 5 or 6. He and Judon have 5 and 6 sacks each. And I don't remember who has more, but I think Weiss has more pressures and has been the more consistent pass rusher overall. And I think he might have 1 fewer sack than his pass rushing partner. He's got 2 of the forced fumbles as well. Weiss can, on that blind side of Fields, if that pressure is coming and going to hit him, that can do a lot of damage. That's where the forced fumble can come. Not because Fields' his grip or his ball security is that terrible, but it's just like you don't see it. You don't even feel the guy coming. He knocks the ball out, and that can be, in an offense as much as the Bears have struggled, 1 fumble turnover like that can break the entire game because they just can't afford any of those wasted possessions in that way. I think on the flip side, I'm looking in that right tackle matchup of the Patriots against those guys we mentioned. Al-Qadim Muhammad, Tashawn Gibson, Dominique Robinson. Not only in the running game like we talked about, but pass rushing as well. Right now, the Patriots' weak link has been the right tackle, Isaiah Wynn. They have benched him multiple times in the season, including this last game that they played against the Cleveland Browns. And his replacement, Marcus Cannon, has actually played really well every time he has come into the game. And it's not super clear yet what's going to happen with Isaiah Wynn. Is he going to get exactly another chance to start and play this game and then maybe get benched again? Or are they just going to keep him on the bench permanently and start Marcus Cannon? And then on the other side of that, if Cannon does start or Cannon does play, he has played really well in the couple games that they use him, and he's a veteran who's been in the league a long time. But, small sample size so far. Let's see if he can hold that up and challenge him as the guy being thrown in there and having to get used to the right guard next to him and fit into that offensive line chemistry. They got a rookie at left guard who maybe you could throw some things at, Cole Strange, but first-round pick, a fairly talented player in there, even coming from a small school. So I like the pass rushing matchup there on the right side of the Patriots offensive line, and it's equally going to be an important run defense matchup for the Bears defensive ends when the Patriots bounce their runs off that right side. On the back end, I mentioned it earlier, the Patriots in the passing game have liked to go after linebackers, safeties, and slot cornerbacks in coverage. That's thrown to the tight ends, and that's thrown to the wide receivers working across the middle of the field. You can kind of pick any of your matchups, right? I mean, there's going to be important ones with Roquan Smith versus the tight ends, and then, of course, Jaquan Brister coming down. But the one I'm interested to see is how much Bill Belichick tries to attack Kyler Gordon and how Kyler Gordon responds to that. Because we've seen, especially last week against the Commanders, I think was Kyler Gordon's best game thus far. It really felt like he was settling in, feeling more confident, getting more comfortable in this Bears defense and what his responsibilities were. But we've also seen him have some really rough moments, especially earlier on in the season. And it seems very Belichick-like to go attack the rookie. Even if he's a rookie second-round pick, to still go attack the rookie. And their leading receiver happens to be the guy they move in the slot the most, Jacoby Myers. And so I'm wondering if that's going to be a pass catcher defensive back matchup that Bill Belichick prioritizes and says, let's attack Kyler Gordon and try and break that confidence that he seemed to be starting to build last week against the Commanders. Can we get into his head the way it seemed like he was in his own head earlier this season? If Gordon can lock down Jacoby Myers as much as possible and make the Patriots throw the ball elsewhere, I think that's a winning formula for the Bears, or at least can go a long way. Not to take anything away from Devontae Parker, who's certainly a talented receiver, and they finally got their second-round pick, Tyquan Thornton, with some real speed going into that offense, and Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are pretty darn good tight ends as well, so they have other options, but Myers has kind of been their leading receiver and a really dynamic weapon for them off the slot, and Gordon could be the one that Bill Belichick says, let's see just how comfortable that rookie is feeling, and I imagine Belichick won't spend too much time trying to go after, like, Jalen Johnson in particular, right? He's smart enough to know where to attack and where not to attack, and it's going to be the middle of the field, safeties, linebackers, and that slot cornerback. Like I said, it's not like this clear formula of like, you just got to do these 4 things and you'll beat the Patriots, because they're really well coached and they have a lot of talent. And it's not as simple as just do these 4 things. But I hope you've got a better sense of what we're expecting to see from the Patriots and how the Bears might respond to it. Because that's what I love about doing these game plan podcasts, is we can come back after the game, which normally is on Monday, but post-game will be Tuesday this time. And we can look and say, okay, what did the Patriots do? Did they do what we expected they would do, or did they throw in new things? And if they did what we expected them to do, were the Bears properly prepared for what they should have been expected for? Because it felt like they weren't against the Minnesota Vikings, maybe had a better plan against the Commanders, and now they've had an extra long mini bye week to prepare for the New England Patriots. So I'm excited to see how the game goes, although I can't say that I'm optimistic for the Chicago Bears' chances. But if they do some of the things we talked about and are prepared for some of the things that we talked about being prepared for, it can go a long way towards keeping this matchup close all the way down to the very end. No matter what happens in the game, you can be sure we'll break it all down for you right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. We're free and available on all platforms, including the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. So click the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified every time we post a new video podcast for you. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today and hopefully every single day. If you're looking for your second listen, check out our Locked On Sports Today podcast. It's like a daily 25-minute breakdown of all the big things that happened in sports the night before. Like, you remember waking up in the morning as a kid and turning on SportsCenter to catch everything you missed in sports last night? That's what this is, but it's on demand, on the go, on your podcast feed. Locked On Sports Today, wherever you get your podcast. Make that your second listen. Come back come back on Monday and next week for Locked On Bears as your first listen and your next opportunity to bear down.